The Express next, and good news for the finance sector, potentially damaging news for the wider economy, Andrew. This is...
This is Rishi Sunak is talking about he needs to slash EU red tape. And this is quite an interesting story. He's talking specifically relating to the solvency rules which were introduced by the EU in 2016. So this is specifically affecting insurance companies.
Right. Yeah.
And what he's saying is because under the current regulations, insurers need to hold a certain amount of capital in order to cover themselves if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
And then this would...
That seems like a fairly basic requirement of an insurance company. Yeah.
It does, of course. But this would reduce the amount of capital required. And the insurance companies have actually said explicitly here, this would free up the potential for further investment.
Right.
It's very interesting that this is happening because one of the arguments for Brexit, of course, all along was this idea that that it is essentially the EU is essentially a bureaucratic bloc and it ties all sorts of stuff up in red tape. And this would be a very tangible example. I mean, this is going to free up £95 billion worth.
Great.
So they say.
Wow.
So this would be a very tangible example.
Interesting expression that, though, isn't it? Free up. And I think they said unlock growth.
Yes.
You kind of want to know, because we all know that money doesn't really exist anymore. It's just digital and it just gets pinged back and forth across wires. In what sense? It's not sitting there in banknotes or gold bullion in the safe of the insurance company. It's probably invested to some extent already,
it can be redirected in more productive ways. I think this is the idea.
Higher risk investments, perhaps?
I mean, they
won't literally have it in rolled up banknotes.
Well, Legal & General have been specific about where it could go. They've said that they could invest billions more in the UK's levelling up, net zero and science superpower agenda. So they've given some very sort of specific examples of how it can work. But, for a long time, we've been talking about, how much does the EU hold up this country in terms of regulation, in terms of legislation, this kind of thing. And so this is actually a good opportunity for Rishi Sunak, potentially the next Prime Minister, to show that there's something good can come out of all of it.
Well, I mean, it's definitely, you're right, it's in the same, the sentiment is precisely that which activated Brexit. But there is also that memory, isn't there, of 2008, when part of the problem was that the fractional reserve banking system had been, increasingly liberalised, so that you say you've got to have hold a 10th, then a 12th, then a 20%. 100th.
I'm just going to pick up what you just said about Rishi Sunak being the future Prime Minister. I'm sorry, I'm going to disagree with you on that.
Really? Go on.
No, I can't see him as a Prime Minister at all. Because I just don't think he's got the rubles.
Well, he's a bit boring, isn't he?
He's a bit dull. You need something a bit more. You need someone. I want someone with passion, and I don't like Boris, but he has passion, and I need that in a leader. I think.
No, but I quite like boring politicians because I think they're getting on with the job. I don't want politicians cracking jokes and having a good time.
No, I don't want them cracking jokes.
It's not a natural route to number 10, number 11, is it? Traditionally,
no,
because you have to present a very cautious and parsimonious even attitude. I mean, Gordon Brown would be the exception. He did have a pretty sticky time of it, didn't he? I mean, he was very unfortunate, but there was always that suspicion as soon as he got into number 10 that here you had a man who knew the cost of everything and the value of nothing. There is something about that in the Chancellor. It's not a great start for him, but also he doesn't really need it, does he? He's one of the wealthiest men in the country, isn't he? Independently.
I mean, and I do take Sajid's point. So we're used to having big characters in number 10.
Yeah.
But that's also another issue. Apparently, he's much more diminutive when he's in
that.
context. But, yes.